Are depressed Democrats screwing up the economic data? So asks Zero Hedge in a recent article asking if, quote, insanely partisan survey responses are trying to spark a recession, noting that, quote, since Trump was elected, hard data, the actual economic values, have strengthened, but so-called soft data driven by surveys has plunged. To give a sense, the University of Michigan Inflation Survey asks Americans what they expect inflation to be. One of the most influential indicators in the economy, so influential that the Fed uses it as a guidepost for rates. The latest Michigan numbers are downright weird. So Republicans expect inflation for the next year to crash from 3.6% to just 0.1%, which is almost deflation. But Democrats expect inflation to soar from 1.7% under Biden to 6.5%. The hard data so far agrees with Republicans. I mentioned recently that Trump cut monthly CPI by half, while Truflation's real-time inflation is just 1.9%. But apparently what you see depends who you voted for. Same with Michigan's 5-year expectations, which covers Trump's entire term. So Dems went from expecting 2.7% inflation under Biden to 4.6%, while Republicans went from 3.4% to just 1.3%. In other words, one of the key economic indicators is currently a poll on whether you like Donald Trump. In fact, the media complained when Jerome Powell dismissed a bump in the Michigan index as a, quote, outlier, which is a polite term for garbage. The problem is Trump derangement is rippling through all of the soft data: consumer spending, confidence, whether jobs are plentiful. We've seen recent drops in survey-based indexes from Michigan's consumer sentiment and Conference Board's leading indicators to the Fed's Empire State Manufacturing Index. So even as hard data has been strong across the board with falling inflation, rising spending, and soaring investment. Now, the solution is easy. Just ignore the soft survey data and wait for the real numbers to roll in. But first, of course, media won't do that. They are desperate for doomer porn. Second, it blinds us. It becomes much harder as an investor or policymaker to know what's happening when you're driving without headlights. Third, even deranged voters do affect the real economy. So they might spend less, they might save more, pull their money out of stocks, and sit in cash. They're shooting themselves in the foot, but it could give you a dip in stock markets and a self-fulfilling soft patch in the economy. So it's next, brought to you by Unchained.com. American media is splitting voters into two separate worlds. In the legacy media, we're plunging into a dystopian abyss and will soon be eating the cats. For the rest of us, the world is healing, and it's time to build. Last time we were here was Ronald Reagan's first term, where he implemented Trumpian growth policies like tax reform, regulatory reform, and oil. But Reagan, too, was dealing with an inherited recession from Jimmy Carter. Now, back then, the recession won. Reagan spent most of his first term getting past Carter's mess in a pair of short but deep recessions. But even with the recessions, it was the mother of stock booms. The S&P 500 went up 172% under Reagan. The Dow went up 183%. Suggesting the play here is if Dems walk away from the table, go ahead and scoop up their chips. A new episode of the podcast just dropped. Check it out wherever you enjoy your podcasts. So Kay will be watching. See you next time.